Welcome back. You're watching The Fix with me, Karima Brown. I'm in conversation with former SARS acting boss Ivan Pillay. Mr. Pillay, of course, this book deals with a whole range of issues, but for the purposes of this interview and because of our limited time, I need to focus on very specific things. So I want to talk about leadership. You've spoken now about the importance of integration, not operating in silos. When we look at the leadership that we have currently in South Africa, a lot of people say we just don't have ethical leadership, we don't have servant leadership. From where you're sitting, what is the thing that's lacking in our civil service, in our public institutions?
Okay, look, the emphasis on the individuals, whilst I understand it, it's also problematic. It becomes an issue of this person is good and that person is bad, and we don't want that person, we want this person. There are bigger issues that maybe to some extent, or maybe to a great extent, actually influence people to behave in the way they behave. So I'll start by saying that we have a very fragmented public service. We've got 3 spheres of government, and the 3 spheres are not connected through one public service. When you join an institution like, let's take Home Affairs, you generally stay in Home Affairs till you finish there or you get kicked out or whatever. Normally in state institutions, you join one institution, you'll spend a few years and then you'll move around. You get a government-wide experience. You also build up your own network of public servants with who you exchange things and so on. So what happens now is you're just into one institution. Okay. So that builds a pressure within the institution to promote people. And sometimes people get promoted beyond their capability. Okay. So we don't manage the public service as a whole. We don't have career management of the public service as a whole. We allow what we call entry into the public service at every level and in any number. That adds to instability. Normally what public service do, other public service, they have an annual intake. They work out that, listen, so many people resign, so many people leave, they've reached pensionable age. So let's say it's 20,000. So they have an intake, say, of 20,000 in a year. It makes it easier to train those people because they're coming in all at the same time, okay? You have the same way of bringing them in, and you bring them in. So that brings stability into the whole system. And what happens is that usually the upper echelons, especially the upper echelons, is actually managed by that public service. You don't, as a minister, just say, I want my DG. You get said, these are the people of the right caliber.
But in your experience, certainly in the book, we find that there's often quite a difficult relationship between political heads and bureaucrats and civil servants. For example, in the book, you've had interactions with senior politicians, including former President Jacob Zuma, for example, that wanted you to roll a stone out of the way for someone, particularly party benefactors, people who give the ANC T-shirts, monies, and so on, and they have problems with their taxes. And you were very clear that they have to, abide by the rules of SARS like everybody else. What is your advice to a civil servant who is asked to do an illegal thing by a political figurehead, like you were often asked?
We must be loyal to the Constitution. We can't be loyal to individuals, and we can't be loyal to politicians or political parties or political factions. We've got to be loyal to the Constitution. And obviously what it means in that in the way in which, there must be a way in which we integrate the Constitution and the rule of law in public administration daily. I don't think we're doing that. I don't think we're doing that for the population as a whole. We have a constitution, but we've done very little to communicate the constitution to millions of our people and explaining it in a simple way and empowering people. This is the power of the constitution. And look, it stood us in good stead. I mean, we were really down the slippery slope. And thanks to our constitution and the judiciary and pockets of people here and there, we have halted, maybe temporarily or maybe forever, the slide. Time will tell. But the way each one of us, the way we do things, we must reinforce the constitution. We must reinforce the right values. We must be conscious that were we to do wrong things, people see what we're doing. You know, people don't pay as much attention to what you say as what you do.
Absolutely.
And people see this, and then they say, okay, this is fine. They're stealing, we can steal.
In fact, you go further. You say leaders must lead by example, particularly because we haven't had that much experience. And you're saying that in the absence of all these years of experience, it's leaders in the civil service, in civil society, in business, in labor, that will set the trend for behavior. If you look at this past almost 3 decades of the political transition in South Africa, have we set that example? And given the fact that so many in the governing party and in political office in general across parties refuse to take accountability for their actions, how do we change that? How do we hold leadership accountable?
Okay. Look, there are no simple answers to these things. Let me start by this way, in as much as so many things have gone wrong, the fact of the matter is that we halted the slide, even if it's temporary. So there are some things that worked. We had some wonderful whistleblowers, they helped. Generally, the media, with a few exceptions, played a good role. And then if you go a level lower, and I think you will know this yourself, despite the rot, there must be, and there are, scores of police stations, of clinics, there are some hospitals, there are some offices in different government departments that despite everything, it works. It may not be 100%, but it works. And many of these people are succeeding despite the difficulty. And one of the things that I think we've got to do is that at all these levels, there are people providing leadership. So I want to just concentrate on the positive thing. And what we have to do, amongst others, is that we've got to recognize these people. We've got to shore them up. We've got to defend them. And then we've got to ask the questions, how can we extend from there to the neighboring places? And how can we link this up? So that would be like a bottom-up approach. Okay. From the top, I think we've got to recognize that we do have some limitations when it comes to capability. We're not going to be able to fix everything in one go. We must prioritize, and we're very bad at prioritizing. We provide lists of things that we want to do, and we don't do anything. And the sad thing is, and we say it in the book, the sad thing is that the next time we even promise more.
No, yeah.
Okay. Now, the logic here is that actually you need to take a step back, and you need to have like a real assessment of what is our capability. And then we say, let's get a few things right. Because once you get a few things right, you learn from it. You get a traction, and you keep moving forward. Okay. So let's be a little bit more humble and focus on a few things and get it right. Now, not everything is important. There will be certain things that are very important to a minister or a president, but let's make it a few things. Let's get it right.
So if you were to give President Ramaphosa advice, I mean, he's got thousands of things to fix, but given your experience in the public service, the fact that you know our capacity isn't what it's supposed to be, what is the one thing that he must get right?
The one thing right is he must prioritize. If he prioritizes, then I think we can get somewhere. Look, there's an article, I think, even in today's Sunday Times, but where we say is that out of all your institutions, which are the ones that are most important? So take your pick. Maybe it's SARS, maybe it's Home Affairs, maybe it's SAPS. Say, okay, so let's fix that one from end to end. Let's make sure it gets the budget. Let's make sure it gets the right people. Let's make sure it gets the right focus. And let's fix this. So take 2 or 3 institutions and fix that. Then we would look at the whole of the public service and say there are certain functions within each of the public service that are very important. And let's choose a few and try to fix across the service. And the 3 that we recommended, one of them was obviously state procurement. So try to fix it across. Now, obviously, there will be a starting point and a middle point and an end point. You can't do the whole of government, but at least you'll start and you'll fix that thing in that way. The other thing is in the management of public servants. I don't think enough is being done. I think we need to attend to that. Okay. Now, beyond these 2 or 3 things, we need special attention on the criminal justice system.
Yes.
It's ailing. It needs a lot of help. And so if we focus on that, those there, and then from the bottom, if we have this approach of recognizing where there's some successes that we can build on, we then take it from the top and we take it from the bottom, and perhaps we'll make some progress.
All right, we leave it there. Mr. Pillay, thank you so very much for your time. That's, of course, Ivan Pillay in this remarkable book called The Unlikely Mr. Rogue, My Life or A Life with Ivan Pillay, written by Evelyn Groenek. Up next, Social Development Minister Lindiwe Zulu gives us an update on the COVID-19 relief grant. Stay with us.